Well, that day 10 years ago when I sat down to finally start writing the story of Once, there'd been years of reading and thinking about it and not sure if I should try and write about the Holocaust for young readers, but I knew I had to. I set out to tell Felix's story in one volume, and I thought that's what I was on the way to doing until I was about 3/4 of the way through. And then I had to admit to myself that I didn't yet know how to say goodbye to him. And I also had some stuff in his life that I couldn't fit into the first book. So by the end of the writing of Once, I knew that there would be then. And I mulled over this for a couple of years and then decided to do something that part of me thought was a bit crackpotty, but I did it anyway. And that was to leap ahead 70 years to Felix's 80th year and set the third book now in a kind of current day with Felix as an 80-year-old man. And when I finished that book and I was able to bring some happiness and a sense of resolution to Felix, I thought that was it. It was a trilogy. That's a nice, round literary number. And I thought that was it. But Felix had other ideas. Risking whiplash for us all, we went back 69 years and I wrote after. I'd become fascinated through my research and also imagining what might happen to Felix about the months immediately after the war was over, because Felix has always been such an optimist that I knew that he'd be holding great hopes that once the war was over, and bearing in mind that when the war is over, it's been more than half of his young life, that all of the good things he knows people are capable of, he hopes will sort of come back online. So the fact that things didn't become sweetness and light the day the war was over, I think presented Felix with a really interesting and yet another big emotional challenge, as well as lots of physical challenges, because Europe was wrecked and people were struggling to survive. And it's out of that the new book, Soon, has grown. I was understandably a little nervous when I started writing this series as to how the world, parents, teachers, even some young readers might feel about such challenging material. Well, the series has been published in many countries now. I think out of all of those, the country that has given me both the most surprise and gratification is Germany, because I just wouldn't have assumed that would be the case. Following the publication of the series in Germany, I've been able to go a couple of times and talk to a lot of young people and find that there's wonderful work being done in schools and universities there for what is about the fourth generation post-war, to help them have their own thoughts and feelings about this huge part of their history. And that, I think, is a really exciting thing when stories can tap into that. I think the biggest lesson I've learned personally writing Felix is that, and it's one of the privileges that we who write fiction have, is that I just had to stay close to Felix's feelings, to remember that even though he was in a remarkable and many would say unique period of human history, he isn't in himself a unique human being any more than all of us are in some senses. He was just a normal kid. It's reminded me that the great and dramatic events in history happen to ordinary people living ordinary lives, and that's probably one of the reasons that we love fiction so much.